wanted to tell y'all that I got asked to do the sweetest thing in my hometown. I got asked to do a charity event for East Tennessee Children's Hospital in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it was a local Dancing with the Stars for local celebrities. And I'm a big deal in Knoxville. So they asked me to do this, and I didn't want to do it because they put you in a bikini with fringe sewn on it, just like they do on ABC. You're practically naked in front of everybody you've ever known. And I had been eating white flour, and I was in a bad place, and I didn't want to do it, but I thought, isn't that selfish of me? That's sick little children. And they raised so much money for them. So I said I would do it. And they put me with this precious partner, Daniel, a big old boy. And we were going to do the cha-cha to Earth, Wind and Fire September. And we practiced for 6 weeks, and we begged for money during the day and danced at night. And it was so stressful. So one night, we were practicing, he kind of slung me hard, and I thought, oh my gosh, something doesn't feel right. So I went to bed, and I got up the next morning, and this big thing was sticking out about right here, and I thought, oh my gosh, is that backed up poop? And because I have trouble with that. And I called my girlfriend, Emily, and I said, I think I've got backed up poop. And she said, I don't think poop goes up that far. And so she looked on her WebMD on her iPad and found a picture of a man that looked like an alien coming out of him. And she said, is that it? And I said, yes. And she said, you got a hernia. So like 4 days before the event, I had a hernia that had to be operated on. So I went in for that operation, and my 2 teenage girls that are usually so hateful, okay, they stepped in and learned to dance in 4 days. So the night of the event, I came out in a wheelchair to Proud Mary Keep On Turning. And they did that video, that dance. If you remember when Tina Turner would do that and it looked like a car wash, do y'all remember that? And what I learned in that whole thing, what I learned in that whole thing was that if something bad, really bad happened to me, God forbid, like a bad sickness, my husband and my children would let me die. After I had that hernia surgery, I laid up in the bed for 3 days and nobody checked on me. I want to be hip. I don't want to be a goober mama. Have y'all seen the goober mamas? The mamas that wear blue jeans to up their armpits, you know? I don't want to be like that. So I went to the Gap to get some low-rising blue jeans. Have you girls bought pants in the last 5 years? Oh my goodness. Terrible. Okay. I went into the Gap, this beautiful, darling little 19-year-old heifer brought me in a pair of blue jeans to try on. I did. Okay. The zipper, honest to goodness, was about that long. And they hit me about right here. And I said to her, I said, is my stomach supposed to be hanging out over my blue jeans? It looks like a small purse. I said, are my panties supposed to be hanging out this far out of the back of my pants? She said, no, you're supposed to wear a thong. I said, excuse me, miss, but I'm a Christian. I don't use my panties for evil. And my boy was 9 years old, and we joined Pop Warner football. And y'all take football just as serious as we do in Tennessee. And that little Pop Warner team scared me to death. They meant it, and it was serious, and it was 130 degrees. And the man who was the coach, head coach, his boy was a quarterback, 9 years old, and he was talented. You could tell this child had it. And they worked that little thing like a mule. And I bet that boy is somewhere smoking dope somewhere. And my boy was over there, you know, talking about the Alamo, and could have cared less. And my husband played football, and he was like, get out there, and everybody was vomiting because it was hot and all that. And then the team mom drank wild turkey out of the back of her truck. I wanted to tell y'all that my new obsession, what I've gotten obsessed over, because I love sports, I love football, is I've been watching quarterbacks on Netflix. And if y'all have not seen that, y'all got to watch it. They follow 3 quarterbacks, and it's precious Kirk Cousins that loves the Lord. And he is so sweet. And then it's that little Mariota man who is beautiful, and his wife, and he loves his baby, and he's yummy and sweet. And then Patrick Mahomes, honey, Patrick Mahomes. And if you watch that, I'm telling y'all, if y'all watch it, y'all will fall in love with that little thing, and you'll be worried to death about him. Okay, he is the age of my children. I could have birthed him, and I feel like I should have. And I would tend to him. I'm worried sick. All right, that little thing. I was in Denver, Colorado, doing a show the night that the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and little Patrick Mahomes had the flu and still played, and they had to give that little thing a bag of fluids. And then he went out there and played in that snow. Okay, if you watch him in that quarterback's thing, oh my Lord. He did something to one of his feet. It was a fracture or a sprain or something. And he kept saying, I'm good, dog. I'm good. I'm good, dog. And they were like, you don't have to play. He was like, I'm good, dog. And that little thing hopped on one foot and played a whole game and threw that ball from up in it and flicked it and did it. And I have never seen anything in my life. I'm worried about him because everybody around him, his family, if y'all not gotten into this, y'all need to do a deep dive into this bunch of yahoos. Honey, you talking about some yahoos. Okay. He's got a brother named Jackson who's a TikTok star. On the sideline, while everybody else is working, like, you know, dogs trying to win a football game, he's on the TikTok doing. And then Patrick Mahomes has got a mama who is still wearing a bikini. Good for her. Good for her. And then he's got a little wife that he met in 8th grade. That little thing's been dating her since 8th grade, and it's really sweet. And in this series on Netflix, he loves her, and he wants to be a good daddy and a good husband, and he loves the Lord. He's got faith. And that little thing's working and doing, and in an ice bath, and they're rubbing him down, and everybody's beat on him in every game, and he says, I'm all right, dog, I'm all right. And then his wife, Brittany, needs attention, but who doesn't? Who doesn't need attention? And if I were a child like she is, and somebody gave me $90 million, I'd act a fool too. You know, I would. I acted a fool when I was her age, and I didn't have 10 cents. All right. And you'll see on this series, like they're working on him, and he's playing with one foot and doing and barely hanging on. and holding up everybody around him, and she is wanting to take selfies. And she's like, come over here, take that selfie. And doing that, and he's hopping over, taking a picture. And then, if y'all didn't know this, which I'm sure you have heard this, Kelsey and Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is running the United States of America. And now she's going to the bowl games, and you know what? Her uterus is aching. I know it is. Her uterus is aching. And she wants a baby. She wants a baby. And it's time. It's time for her to want a baby. And she wants to breed with that big old Kelsey boy. Of course she does. Of course she does. They're both tall. I mean, I could see it. And then little Taylor Swift looks like she's got a sweet spirit. And you can tell that she's worried about little Brittany. Mahomes needing attention. So ESPN had them in the box, and you could see Taylor holding her hands and singing with her and dancing with her, and had a look on her face like, I better do this or she's going to burn this thing down. But don't y'all know that Taylor Swift looks at that big old Kelsey boy's mama and thinks, look at her, she's got on a sensible shoe. She's got on a sensible shoe and a nice jean, a high waist with some stretch. And don't you know that Taylor Swift is thinking, I know that little doll put in a pot roast in the crock pot before she came to this NFL football game so that they would have something to eat when this thing was over. And you know that his mama browned that roast in a skillet with flour. I know. Of course she wants to have a baby with him and his people. Anyway, thanks for letting me go off on that rant. It's just been on my mind. I'm worried sick. Thank y'all. I'm worried. No, you know what I've been thinking about? I thought about, Lord, Christmas is coming. And now I'm a grandmama, and I'm out making a little money. But when I was a stay-at-home mom, when we first got started out and had little children, I remember thinking, oh my Lord, that Little Tykes kitchen's gonna sell out. And my husband doesn't like to let go of money till right at the end of Christmas. And I'm like, I gotta get there. I'll do something nasty. I'm gonna... Okay, I'll do something nasty in that big Dodge Ram in that mobile home parking lot. Yeah, and then I'll be able to get that Elmo. Yeah. Y'all won't believe the things I've done so my children could have a good Christmas. You know, but they always did. Oh, you little mamas, God love you. And then you got to clean everything and cook and then wrap. I had a good friend that she said to her husband, if you'll wrap 3 Christmas presents, I'll have sex with you. She did. I remember that years ago, and I remember thinking, okay, I could do that. Maybe I could do that. It goes from 5 to 18, so the little 5-year-olds come out, and they are yummy. And you could eat their lips off. And they've got little bitty skirts on about the size of a napkin. And they come out to Beyonce's All the Single Ladies. And their little mamas are in their 20s, and they're not bitter yet. And they're in the front, making every move that their little children are making. Because those little children are babies, and they need to be at home breastfeeding. They can't remember their act. So they go all the way up until they get to my baby's age, and my baby comes out, reef sharks. And for 2.5 minutes, my baby throws little children up in the air. Broken out in a sweat, working like a Trojan. And the whole time, it's the most freakishly tiny little people you've ever seen that she's throwing up in the air. Their little mamas are freakish tiny little people too. I'm from farming country in Middle Tennessee. We grew dark fired tobacco, so I've got thick ankles. I can work in the fields. I don't know who these people are. I don't know how they birthed a little baby, their little cervix. So these freakishly tiny little children are up on top, and the whole time she's throwing them in the air, they're doing this. And nobody knows why. But this goes on for 2.5 minutes, and then the finale. All the little children hunker down on the stage, and the finale was my baby. They had my baby hop up out of that crowd with a child's foot in her hand. So y'all get what I'm saying. She had a human being up over her head with one arm. And that little girl's doing some kind of something up on top. My baby was a rock star. Thank you. I mean, really, I don't know when's the last, I had never held one of my friends up over my head with one foot in my hand. It's a big deal. And the feminine boys went nuts. And they wanted her to stay so bad. They were like, we want you to stay. And she was like, I'm okay. I've got it out of my system. I'm okay. She said, but I'm keeping this whore outfit. She still has it. She says she's going to get married in it. But anyway, okay, let me tell y'all that my middle one, we go and get spray tans together. And I love them, and I feel thinner in them. If you're going through a hard time, go get a spray tan. Makes you feel like a movie star. Okay, well, we went the other night, and this is the difference for you young mamas out there. Like, women going like in your 20s and 30s and even in your 40s when you still are, have life left in you. Okay. There's something happens to you when you're in your 50s, and it is wonderful. You don't care, okay? You don't care about anything. All right. We go to get a spray tan, and y'all know about Snapchat. There's a thing called Snapchat where you can video somebody and send it to your friend. Okay. Or send it out to the world, I guess. All right. I'm completely naked with a plastic bag on my head. In the spray tanning thing, and it's like a car wash. It does this. And then you do. And then you do. And then you do. Okay. And when it's cold outside, it feels like needles going in you. It's so cold. Oh, that's awful. But anyway, she started filming me on Snapchat. Completely nude. Now, in my 30s and 40s, I would have been hysterical, and I would have been in a bowl, and I would have been so torn up. In your 50s, at first I was like, and then I was like, I don't care. I think I may have gone. I don't care. I don't care. It's a wonderful feeling. I hope y'all can all get to that one day where you don't care. Honey, it's wonderful. The reason why I'm so in love with him, he's an old soul. Have y'all ever known anybody that was just born an old soul? He was born an 80-year-old man. All right, let me tell y'all why I say that. He has had a garden since he was in middle school. He has just always loved to learn and had all these nifty things that he's been into. Like he raised chickens. He was in Berry College. They have enterprises, business enterprises, and he started the cage-free egg enterprise. He raised 200 chickens while he was in college. Do y'all want to know what I was doing at the University of Tennessee in the 80s? I mean, let's just get it out of the way. Have I made out with anybody in here? Anybody? I was in terrible sin. And I was down at Gabby's on the Strip. I don't know if any of y'all remember that Sodom and Gomorrah. I was dancing to Prince, but anywho. So anyway, all right, so he had his own garden. He now cans his own food. He can can food. Are y'all listening to me? He loved gospel bluegrass in high school. Honey, that's his favorite music that he loved. So I brought him to Dr. Ralph Stanley. I don't know if y'all remember Dr. Ralph. He just passed away, 90-something years old, godfather of Mountain. So I brought my son to the Bijou to see him. They propped little Dr. Ralph up on stage. Looked like he had a permanent. Almost threw my panties at him because that's what you do at Tom Jones. Anywho, so we're sitting out in the audience while Dr. Ralph was up here singing, and I thought, how many teenage boys are listening to this? Gospel bluegrass. What are they listening to, real teenage? You know, all right, Walk a Flock of Flame. Rihanna, Lady Gaga, all that nasty goings on. I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I had to yell at my boy, turn that gospel bluegrass down? You're out of control. If I hear, I saw the light one more time. Okay, the 5 love languages. All right, me and Chuck Morgan in Sunday school class went on a retreat, and they talked to us about the 5 love languages. You know, and it's written by little Gary Chapman, who is a doll and tiny and does, that man's probably getting in his 90s, and he does sit-ups every day. And that little thing, and I got to meet him later, he was a doll. But anyway, the 5 love languages, if you don't know about that, you got to get it. There was a 5 love languages for your marriage, and then there's one for your children. And you need to get that. Everybody's got a love language. And you take the test. You got to read the book and take the test. Well, you don't read the book. I didn't. But you can take the test. I like to read books about Hollywood murder. So anyway, you take the test, and then you can, and your husband takes the test, and you find out what his love language is, and he finds out what your love language is. And if you find that out, then you can feed them their love language. And then, so I can feed Chuck Morgan his love language, and then his love tank feels full. If I don't, he could go to work and be at a water fountain, and some whore comes up to him and starts feeding him his love language, and then he feels a tingle, And then Satan swoops in. So these are the 5 love languages. Quality time. If you may know somebody that just wants you to sit on the couch and watch ESPN with them. Something like that. Then there's gifts. That's my sister's love language. It doesn't have to be something expensive. Just so you thought of her, if you buy her a card and a rose from the grocery store, she'll bawl her eyes out. And then there's words of affirmation. That's mine. But physical touch. Physical touch, which I know every woman in here is like, that's my husband. Physical touch. But it's not that kind of physical touch. We're talking about the physical, when people that just want to hug you and squeeze on you and all that all the time. That's their love language, is physical touch. But women think, that's my husband's and he's on me like a duck on a June bug. But that's not the... All right, and then there's words of affirmation. That's mine. So all Chuck Morgan has to do is say, you look beautiful tonight. You are a good mama. That Trisha Yearwood's chicken piccata is to die for. And then my love tank feels full, and then I'm willing to do something vulgar with him. And then he gives me money to get my hair highlighted. See? It works out, It's God's way. And then my husband's is acts of service. So for him to feel loved, I have to go in the garage and build a set of shelves. All right, did y'all have a good Easter? Yay! All right, let me tell y'all, I had everybody at my house and I was exhausted. And I thought, I don't know if I want to be, I'm the person now because everybody else has gotten too old. And so they said, it's on you now. And so, I like to cook and all that, but it's a lot getting ready and all that ice in the glasses and all that. And my little mother-in-law, Gail, who is darling, who loves to cook, we were talking about our menu, and I said, this was a couple of weeks ago, and I said, let's do a tenderloin. And then we talked about deviled eggs, all that, and Tess, my baby, said, we need to get a ham, maybe a spiraled ham, and Gail went. She goes, this is just my opinion. And we thought, what is she about to talk about? P. Diddy? We were like, what's she gonna say? She goes, it's just my opinion, but I think a ham that has not been spiraled tastes better. She goes, that's just my opinion. She goes, that's just my opinion. We were like, it's okay, Gail, you can tell us that. My husband and I both play sports, and we love sports. And I know y'all are thinking, you sissy thing, you didn't play sports, but I did. I should have cared more. I was worried about my hair, but anyway, we loved it. And we pushed our 4-year-old, our oldest, when he was 4, we made him do T-ball. And I was thinking about it because it's T-ball season right now. And T-ball, if you don't know anything about T-ball season, it's about 110 degrees outside. The games last about 3 hours. It's little children with looks like they got a pull-up on under their baseball pants. Nobody ever hits the ball, throws the ball, makes contact with the ball. My boy hated it and laid in a fetal position on his glove the entire season. And every once in a while, he'd pop his little head up and say, water. And my middle child was about 2.5 at the time, and I said, please take your brother bottled water out there to the field. And she was 2.5. She had her crown and her wand and her tutu and her pink prostitute shoes from Walmart on. And she went running out to the field and stopped and got a glazed look over her eyes, pulled her panties to the side, and pooped in the T-ball field. I had to run out there and get a stick and flick it into the woods because I didn't want another child to step in it or think it was a milk dud. But he refused to play sports until he was probably about in middle school. He was so traumatized by all of that.